Yo, that view is nuts. The developers knew what they were aiming for. I heard that they actually made more polygons on this certain area, which is actually crazy. They knew what the players are going to be interested in seeing, and they were just giving you all its glory, you know. So in terms of marketing, they definitely nailed it. Definitely nailed it, you know. The game is beautiful. The game is spectacular. Alright guys, really know what it is. You know LT, aka TANKdGAMER. Now where do we start? Now I'm not really one to talk about games that are coming out or anything like that. I'm normally one to just play them and have my experience and show my experience on screen. Now today is a bit different. I'm actually going to review The First Descendant. It totally blew me out the water. I didn't expect to be kind of jumping into this game thinking of this, you know, sort of fidelity we was actually going to witness. Now the game is a looter shooter. It's pretty much based around you kind of grinding, getting new weapons, and then just building up your stack really. And it wasn't only the guns you can modify, you can actually modify your actual descendant. The descendant being the character you're playing with. Now I was using Bunny as my main. The reason being I liked how she moved, the movement, not just the view obviously. But anyways, when it came down to like your modifications of the characters, you can actually change their skills. So one which she came off with as a main was like a laser beam sort of move she had, but then you can actually change it to a condenser where she would actually charge up and explode in impact. And she was a very good character to kind of be in and out of like hordes of enemies at the same time, because she has like a move where she rings around her opponents and she's like starts pulsing as well, like all this electric static energy, and it just obliterates the whole field. Now it's pretty crazy. Not only you're fighting like you're fighting multiple enemies on the screen at the same time. Games such like Destiny, and then you've obviously got another one they compare it to is Warframe. Now I haven't seen as much hordes in those games compared to this. This is actually crazy. I understand the power of Unreal Engine 5, so it wasn't just the graphic, it's more or less about how the AI functions in the game as well. You was dealing with, I'm sure I was dealing with 50 plus to 100 enemies on the screen at once, and there was a point where I was running down the part escaping the enemies, and I turned around the corner and I saw another 100, and I was like, oh my days, this is crazy. So the intensity in the game is definitely there. It's one of the things, I think it's one of the core mechanics that makes this game so fun. So it was an interesting feature to touch on. Now there are some negatives as well when it comes down to the game, such as the open world. I don't know if it's an open zone, I don't know if that's something you refer to now, but basically you choose sections on the maps where you like to kind of pretty much do your looting or do the mission objectives at the time, or just follow the storyboard. Now when you go into this world, it's pretty much is all open for you to explore. The graphics are beautiful. But there was a lot of things where I believe the community would agree on as well, is they just thought the open world or the open zone was pretty much empty. You know, there was only times you'd actually see opponents is when you start missions. Now, I can understand this being a beta, they probably did it just to run and test things out, but I definitely think in the long term that could be a problem, because players, like sometimes even when you're playing like games like GTA, you probably just want to roam around and you don't, like, because it's a sandbox game, you don't mind just interacting with the world and blowing up cars or doing stupid mindless things randomly, right? And this game could do that. I believe this game could be something like that, where obviously you're not blowing up cars, but the example you seeing like a roaming enemy walking around, or just a random mission objective pops up. I mean, that would be quite interesting just to kind of interact with these things. So you could be playing, you could be casually just jumping on to see what this game is about and stuff like that, and next thing you jump into like random encounters like that. That would be a great touch, I believe, that would bring into the community, the game itself, you know, for longevity and stuff like that. Also the hordes, sometimes when you do go through the hordes, there are different variety of opponents you are versing. Now some of them what I kind of didn't like was the very basic starter hordes you come across, where like these NPCs are pretty much basic, they just pretty much moving left and right, they're just strafing left and right, and they're just shooting like one-shot bullets. Now they are quite easy to deal with. Obviously with a group of them it becomes a bit of a tedious thing to do, but it's one of those ones where they didn't seem to have any brain cells, so it was like one of those ones where you're like, okay, God, just take these out. And I get this game, there's not really focused too much on AI being too heavily focused on finding out how to dodge you and stuff like that, but it just felt like a bit underwhelming dealing with those like hordes. But when it got down to like the opponents that had more better like equipped moves to deal with, like for example they had shields, they were running at you, that got a lot more exciting. And not to forget to mention the bosses were the peak of the game. I believe, like, just to deal with the bosses, the AI was ferocious. Like, it was one of those ones where if you was on the map by yourself, there will be no break for you at all. And I know there are people that do this solo. I don't know what you was doing in the game to be able to kind of level up your character at that point, but they would take it on solo, you know. But I can imagine this game would be a lot of fun when you build out your character and you're able to take on like raids or bosses, anything like that. Just solo it through and stuff like that, you know. It's a very interesting touch. Just the uniqueness of taking them on and stuff like that, and being able to break out certain weak points from them, breaking off guards, climbing on top of them, you know, something of like you'd see like Shadow of the Colossus. It was great man. It was great experience. The grapple, I like the grapple as well. It was a nice touch to have a bit where you can kind of swing around a bit like Spider-Man and anything like that. I thought the physics on it was well done. I know a lot of people tended to complain. I wasn't really too sure what they were complaining about, but I found like the physics in the grapple was well done nicely, because if you was to kind of swing off the tip of it, you'd be able to kind of swing all the way around, and I thought that was a nice feature to have, you know. So it's one of those ones where if you get used to the mechanic of the game, then you'll be able to kind of do some really cool stuff, like pull off some cool tricks at the same time, and obviously do like the no scope shots and everything like that. I thought it was pretty crazy. Now the graphics, yeah, it was amazing. The boss fights were good, the horse fights were engaging, and the gunplay was to a T. I haven't really played a third-person shooter where I actually enjoyed the actual shooting. This was the iceberg of it, really. I haven't played, well, I played Fortnite probably once or so, but Fortnite, even though it's made on Unreal Engine 5 as well, it had nothing on this game's gunplay. It almost felt like I was playing a first-person shooter. That's how good the gunplay was. Now, obviously, they had a aim assist when it came down to console players and stuff like that, where you could obviously change, you can modify depending on how much aim assist you actually want in the game, but I kind of left it at the default. I wanted to kind of play it as bare bones, how the developers designed the game to be, and I honestly thought it was a great experience and stuff like that. So there's nothing too much negativity I can say. One thing I don't think a lot of people in the community talked about was there are no races different than Caucasians and maybe your odd Asian in the game. I thought that was a bit strange. I think there was one NPC that was a black guy, so they obviously know other races exist in the world, but any of the main cast, none of them. And one last thing I did forget to mention, it's not that much of a big deal, but I can imagine it could change the game mechanic pretty well. And then I believe that when you're using your grapple and you're swinging around your opponents, because I was doing it quite a lot, I noticed that the opponent's tracking ability was instantly fast, so it was kind of impossible to get behind your opponents to catch them off guard, especially if they've got a shield and you're trying to get around them. Their rotation is so instant that it's not gonna work. Even with the character Bunny, where she's got like this crazy speed ability boost, I was not able to kind of outrun the opponent's field of view. So I would definitely like to see them like kind of slow down the NPC's rotation when you're fighting them, just so you can flank them if need be. That would be a nice feature just to have in there, but it's not that much of a big deal because it wasn't a game killer for me. But it was one thing I noticed, that if you are playing a game where you are utilizing your movement, your grapple and stuff like that, at least make you feel a bit more like powerful in terms of being able to flank around your opponents and making use of them, because using your grapple to get to one side to the other and they can just rotate to the same speed, they're just going to shoot at you in your next position you're at. So hopefully I would like to see them kind of just change that. It's not a hard fix, it's literally just slowing down the rotation in Unreal Engine 5. I could pretty much do it if I wanted to. So if the team does get to hear this, that would be a nice feature they can kind of just sort out for the player base and stuff like that. But yeah, if you guys did play the game, you know what I mean, let me know how you thought about it. Let me know if there's things you like to see them improve, things you actually enjoyed a lot about it, things you expect to see when the game does come out. Anyways, you already know what it is. You know LT, aka TANKdGAMER. We'll see you in the next one. Let's get it. Bow.